Hey everybody, you're probably wondering why in the heck am I laying on this foam roller doing this video, and it's because I want to demonstrate a breathing technique or say lack thereof, proper breathing, which contributes to two things. One, when people get a lot of chafing from their wetsuit, a lot of that rubbing back there, even when they have body light on, a lot of that is due to how they breathe. And then on the same thing about how you breathe actually impacts your swimming in a negative way when you turn your head too much. Most triathletes, and I would even put myself in this because when I started doing triathlon, I couldn't swim 25 yards, but I really become a student of swimming. And what that means is I've taken a lot of classes, I've read a lot of books, really tried to learn swimming. And because of that, I can swim. I can come out in the top 5% of most races in under 30 minutes for a half Ironman. In 2013, a non-wetsuit race, Ironman Hawaii, an hour and 3 minutes, which is really good, especially for a person who couldn't swim. So I feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it. And one of the things with swimming and breathing specifically is when triathletes come to become a triathlete and don't have a swim background, oftentimes have a really hard time with breathing. And so what happens is there's a lot of movement of the head versus swimmers who have a swim background and are taught to really keep their head still and just rotate here, and then there's not all this movement this way. So the more when we take a breath, the more we bring our head back like this, you can maybe see it's gonna pinch my neck back here, and so my neck is gonna fold on over the top of the wetsuit. And so that's gonna cause a lot of chafing, versus if we just have a real turn like this, less movement of the head, and especially not movement this way. There's a great drill you can do. It's called one goggle in the water. And basically, if the water line is here and you take a breath, see if you can keep one eye underneath the water so you're looking under the water. That'll keep you from moving your head too much. Along the same lines, see what happens is, when we don't have a swim background and we want to take that big breath like this, and we go in to reach, our hand will cross the center line, as opposed to when we just turn our head like this, our hand stays out here more. So the more movement we have in our head, it really affects the back end of our swim stroke. You feel your hips wiggle. So a couple things that I'll have you try. One, just swim 25 yards and notice, what your head does when you breathe. Do you pick it up like this to breathe? Do you look back? Do you look back at your shoulder? Even doing this, you can see my hips moving versus breathing this way. There's no movement of my hips. So then the second thing I'd have you do is to actually breathe and look back at your shoulder and notice what happens to your opposite hip, and notice what happens to your hand entry. The more you turn and look to the side, the more that hand is going to cross the center line. Okay? And then compare that with breathing, much less head movement, and even looking slightly forward, if not to the side, but not back. Okay, so see if you can breathe and not actually see your shoulder. And then you can compare that with breathing and looking at your shoulder, and notice what happens on the back end of your stroke. See if you start to feel this fishtail, and also see if you can feel, when you breathe with one goggle in the water, if this opposite hand stays out wider versus as you bring your head this way, the hand is going to travel over that way. And that's going to cause you also to get off course. Now, in an open water situation, when you're trying to sight, some people will be swimming along and they'll pick their head up this way, and that's going to really pinch the neck and cause more wetsuit chafing. So instead, when you breathe and then you bring your head around that way, there's a little bit less rubbing back there. So head movement in swimming is great for a couple things. One's the least amount that you move your head to breathe, less chance of chafing with your wetsuit, but also more efficient swimming because it keeps you in a straight line. A lot of coaches will have swimmers put on a front-loaded snorkel. So there's a snorkel here, and the benefit of that is you can just swim and keep your head perfectly still. And so that's a good way you can practice not moving your head a lot. But then I would also encourage you to do a series of 25 yards and really play around with your breathing. Try the one goggle in the water breathing, and then really notice what happens when you turn your head more and what that does to your swimming and what happens when you turn your head less. All right, give it a try. Love to hear your feedback.